Hello, everybody. Let's just see that I'm correctly streaming to Facebook. Let me share my page. See what we got here. The last thing I want to do is go through a whole live just to have to do it again. Let's see. How is everyone doing today? I know here in Portland, it's kind of gloomy and yucky. What I wanted to chat with you guys about today, as I double check that we are in fact live, is SSL. And this came up because I was doing a review for one of my clients. One of the things I offer is a complimentary website review. And actually in the body of this post is a link to it if you want to request one. And when I do that, there we are, we're live, cool. When I do that, what I do is I go through a site and I basically share with you what's working, what's not, how you can change things. And so Jen's is the one that I just reviewed. I shared it actually on my personal page. And I wanted to zero in on one particular piece of it for you guys. One thing that I've realized, I've reviewed 20, 30 sites now, easy. And there's obviously consistent things that come up. And what I want to do is highlight one thing at a time. So that way these reviews aren't so repetitive from what you guys experience. So the nugget I want you to take away from today is SSL. The fact that when you come to your page, you see this really annoying not secure. What's that about? Well, so SSL is something that has become important at least a year ago now. It used to be you only had SSL if you had an e-commerce site, if you were taking money and you had to be secure. But somewhere along the way, Google, and we all bow down to Google, has decided that it wants all sites to be secure. That whatever information is being handled, whether it be simply an email, it needs to be secure. So if your site is an HTTPS, and S is that key thing, you don't have a secure site. And it's even beyond that, and that's what I'm going to show you kind of in this video, is that you need to not only get your SSL certificate, but install it correctly to get the green padlock. In fact, there's even a website which is really handy called NO Padlock. See, I even have it bookmarked. Why No Padlock? And it basically will tell you what on your site is causing the issue. But let's kind of rewind to the very beginning. The first question is, do I have an issue? Well, go to your website. I'm in Chrome, and Chrome tells me very clearly not secure. All right, there's an issue. That's step one. Step two, I take my URL and I copy it. I paste it in a browser and I see if I add an S, what happens. If I get something like this, it means I need to call my hosting company, probably GoDaddy, and consider paying them $50, $100 a year to get this lovely certificate. If you work with another hosting company, I would say SiteGround is comparable to GoDaddy level. If you want to go like a tier above, and by the way, SiteGround is leaps and bounds ahead of GoDaddy, but in that sort of the, well, let me just say that if you're at a GoDaddy, SiteGround, price point wise would be a great thing to look at. And they include something called Let's Encrypt, which means you would have the SSL certificate included free. I'll need to show you how to set it up correctly, but let me share with you why there is better than SiteGround. So better than SiteGround is something like WP Engine. Why I like WP Engine? Well, they have insurance for hacking. You know, one of the challenges with WordPress is that as it's become popular to both people coding functionality, things that you can do and grow with the site, things that were not available 10 years ago, you unfortunately have people causing problems. And so the nice thing about something like a WP Engine or a Flywheel, people, high-end WordPress hosting companies that focus on WordPress and on its needs, they all include, if you get hacked, they'll take care of the cost of fixing it, which means they're motivated for you not to get hacked in the first place. So sort of the baseline hosting is something like a GoDaddy or a SiteGround, which I would say is better, where they'll give you solid hosting. But even on top of that is a hosting company that gives you that level of insurance. Now, it's more expensive, But as a business owner, sometimes you have to ask, how much is $200 in the grand scheme of your stress level, life, your website being down, your own stress about it, and your own company's reputation? That's a bit of a side rant, but there you go. SiteGround and WP Engine both include something called Let's Encrypt, which is SSL, free and included. So if we're simply doing something like a GoDaddy, or I'm not sure about Bluehost, but a Move, it's included. So in this case with this person, her site doesn't have it included or it's not enabled. I would have to reach out to the host and say, what's going on? What are my options? If this, however, came up with the website, it would tell me that now I can start setting things up. It means that SSL is installed, I just haven't set it up correctly. So step one is, do I have it? And do I need to call my hosting provider? Step two is, let's start installing it. So I'm going to go to my own site here. This is under the hood. You'll see that my site is as a mess as anybody else's. But where I'm going to go is I'm going to go to General. And the first thing I'm going to do is, if when I went to the HTTPS, I saw my website, meaning good to go, I will update the WordPress URL and the site address to both have the S version of my site. And then I'll click Save Changes. This will probably log me out of my website and I'll need to log back in. Only do this if, when you typed in the HTTPS version, you saw your site. If not, you're still on step one, talking to your hosting provider. Okay. Step two is adding the S here. Let's go to step three. So one of the reasons you might get to step three, you've changed it here, and you might still be getting this message. If you notice I have a nice padlock, you might be still getting the not secure. That's because some of the stuff that's being loaded by your site is still old. It's still not secure. And there is a wonderful plugin. I would highly recommend you to do a backup before doing this. That's its own video. But I would highly recommend you installing a plugin. Let me see if I have it installed yet. There's, I think, 2 that are pretty highly rated. And I'm going to add it. Search and replace. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through the database. This is the stuff that makes up the site, all the words and the images you've put on your site. And it's going to change all of them over to the secure version. So let's go to Better Search and Replace. Look, it's got 600,000 installs, almost a 5-star review. This works. Install. So it's going to go ahead and add the software to my website. Once it's installed, then I need to activate it so it's active on my website. Next up, I'm going to need to find it. To any of you who've seen my past videos, you know we get to then play the where the heck did it stick it in my website. Typically under tools, not necessarily. Here it is. Better Search and Replace. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, copy, paste, and I'm going to want the non-S version of my site to go to the S version. And so I'm going to use Shift. So I'm going to click on the first thing to highlight it, scroll all the way to the bottom. I'm on a PC, don't know what the Mac rule is. Click Shift, click the last one. It selects all of it. I'm not doing a dry run. I actually mean it. Again, this is where it's great. And they even tell you, please have a backup. Own conversation, you should be having backups, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume you have one. If not, reach out to someone like me who will make sure you have one, because this is touching your database. And anytime you play with your database, you're kind of playing with things that you need to be careful with. So anytime there's a not secure version, change it to the secure version. Run search and replace. It's going to go through your entire database. And it's going to now show you if, it's going to go through and it's anytime it sees the unsecure version, it's going to switch it to the secure. Once that's done, go to your website. Now, one of two things may happen. You might throw a party because you see the green padlock saying, I am secure. Or you might see something like this, not secure. Something is still not right. That's where it's really helpful to use the website, NO Padlock. And when you go to this site, what you'll do is you'll take your website address and you're going to paste it in. Now, this site, it's not secure for, first of all, it's not even HTTPS. It would have to have an S there to be secure to even start being checked. But it will tell you where along the way things are breaking down. And at that point, there's a couple options. One is to reach out to someone like me to try to figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's something you've done where you've got coding in the CSS where by customizing it, you can add an S. Sometimes there's a plugin. Let me see if I can remember what it's called. I used to use it before I knew how to do this correctly. It's kind of one of those things where sometimes you finesse things and sometimes you just take out the hammer. Let me go see what the plugins are and see if I can remember. There is a plugin that can kind of use a bit of a hammer. This is not where we start. Sometimes it's where we end. Let me go over here to add new. Let me see what comes up. Insecure content fixer. So if for some reason you're still having issues after you know SSL works, you've changed your database, which was what that search and replace did, you can try this. This has different levels of sort of hammers. Like I have a little hammer to like I have a sledgehammer. Usually you can finally pull it off with this. I've had to do this on, there's only one site where this is still going on because doing it correctly is kind of too much work and hence too expensive. But those things, those are really your steps if you have a WordPress site to go from insecure to a happy green padlock on your own. As always, I am here for you. Please, if you run into issues along the way of what I've suggested, please post questions in the feed, in the thread for this. Know that also this whole conversation started from Jen asking me to give me her feedback on her site. You know that I do website reviews, and you can always go to my website. Let me go find it, the page to show you how to get there. Under website design, you can go to complimentary website reviews. I do about 10 a month, depending on my own availability. Been kind of crazy lately, but I try to do as many as possible. And then also know that in addition to this, I offer sort of a website, revamp where we'll hop on a Zoom call and together work on, if you've been able to, if you're a DIYer who has gotten to like a certain point and need someone to help you get a little further, I can certainly do that. And then of course, what I love to do, which is when you've graduated to the point in your business where you can simply say, hey, Jocelyn, wave your magic wand. And I say, I'm waving it, and you can get the site of your dreams. But I know that in business takes steps, and that I'm happy to meet you guys wherever you're at along your journey. This is Jocelyn Mozak signing off. I hope this is a bit of value. Before I go, I see some numbers. I don't think there's any questions, but just in case. All right, now, just in case before I sign off, I want to make sure there aren't any questions. This is back to back with another live, so I'm guessing not so much, but all right, there we go. All right, hope this has been valuable. Have yourself an amazing rest of your day. And I will be on next week discussing another part of your website that you yourself can do to help get it to go from, even if you're DIYing, so it doesn't look that way, and even if you don't want to DIY, how you can do a quick check of your own site just to make sure it's still up to snuff. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.